seasons and never give up all its reasons. This new day calls our name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now, a song we sing out loud. Every road we find, we climb. We are one. We've come so far. We are breaking through. We're standing on the edge of a better view. Who will you be? Don't give up this fight. Tomorrow starts today. All we need is time. Time can pass 1,000 seasons and never give up all its reasons. This new day calls your name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now, a song we sing out loud. Every road we find, we climb. We are one. seasons and never give up all its reasons. This new day calls our
Hi. Hello, everybody. Okay, here we are again. And thank you for tuning in again. I'm hoping that we're going to get more people on. So, what did you all think of last week's session? And we talked about how the academy started. We talked about the copycats, and we talked about the Nova Vita Wellness Center, right? Well, I hope we are giving you some really good information about Young Living and giving you more clarity on what Gary did. So today we're going to have a very heavy topic right before the week of convention, because it's actually all started around this time, 2016, 2016 June at convention. That's when he injured his hand and created all sorts of issues with his health. And when he found out a lot of the things that were going on inside him. So I've got a cat who's going crazy today. He's like running around. So you might hear him going crazy at the back. You can hear him now. All right. We need to figure out why he's like, can you guys hear him? Like, he's super loud. If you can let me know that, oh, we can hear your cat. So my little one, I've got two cats. One of them is pregnant and the baby's due in about a few weeks. So we're very excited about that. And obviously I've got these cats and they're Oilers. They use everything from Melrose to purification to obviously the animal scent series. And I use baby seedlings shampoo to wash them. And they're healthy and they're happy. They're very, very healthy cats. So I've been very blessed with two really cute cats, just very noisy sometimes. All right. So without further ado, we will start today's class. I will share screen. It will turn a bit heavy because I will also be reading out the 3 letters that Mary wrote about Gary's eventual passing. I'm not very well, English is my second language, so there might be words when I'm a bit lost. I hope you all be okay with it. And again, thank you for tuning in. So let me share screen first. Let me see. As I said, I'm still not very good at this. And I will be playing some videos too. So we're sharing video clip. All right. Then. So this is actually the one where Gary got sick, and I'm going to be reading out 4 letters that were sent privately to the Diamonds. The first one would be from Gary, and then the later 3 ones will be from Mary. Let me see. So before we start, I'd actually like to show everybody who Gary Young was. Like, what kind of person was he? I've added this Chinese subtitles because this was actually made for my own team who prefer to read Chinese. So there must be something here. I still don't know how to manage this Facebook Live thing. Okay. I have this video here because I wanted to show everybody what kind of character Gary was, because for those of us who have met him and worked with him closely, we know who he was. And for those of you who have heard about him or read about him, or actually there's a different levels of reading about him, right? There's the superficial level of hearsay, as some lawyers like to call it, hearsay, where it's just hearing other people talk about him. And then when it's hearsay, it's not actually very concrete and very real. And you can hear, and I always feel like in order to really know the person, you have to hear it from the people who have met him, right? Who have met that person. If it's all just hearsay, if it's all just, oh, I heard this is what he did, I think there's like little or no credit to it. And we all have to do our own research and do our own investigation. Hear it, I always feel like hear it from the people who have met him, hear it from the people who have worked alongside him, and not hear it from the people who have never heard of him, like who have never met him or never met him in person, or maybe just listen to him talk once in person, right? Never actually really have much interaction with him. So I'm gonna, throughout the whole course, throughout the next 1 month, 2 months, I'm going to be showing you a lot of what I saw in Gary, you know, the character and the person who he was. And I found this video, and this video was taken before when we launched Nitro. I don't know if any of you remember when we launched Nitro, Gary was very excited. He made this video. And let me play the video for you first, okay? All right. Wait, oops. See, I'm not really very good at this. Just went to the next page. I can play this thing. It is a crap. What the heck? Please bear with me. My cats are now fighting. Why is it not playing? Okay, there we go.
Oh golly, it's been a great day in the dunes today. And now we're gonna go have some fun. The wind settled down. We're gonna make some jumps. So I gotta have a little Ninja Red high octane juice fuel my tank. Oh boy, that hits the spot. That's good stuff. But you know, the real kicker is this Ninja Nitro. Oh my goodness. Man, when you add this to your tank, it really gives you a boost. Well, I'm going to give my little car an advantage because I want to make a great jump this second time. We'll just give it a shot. Alright, now we'll see what she'll do. See you in the dunes.
Yeah. So the video that I saw was before Nitro launched. I can't remember which trip it was because when I first started with Young Living, I was going on Young Living trips like 3 or 4 times a year, all the way from Hong Kong to fly to the US. And the video that I saw was Gary taking off into the air and the car disappeared, and nothing. And then the camera dropped to the floor, and I saw John Wetton running towards the hill onto the other side. So what happened was, Gary, well, I don't want you guys to be watching this blank screen. Okay, so what happened was, Gary actually was doing all these stunts, and he was turning around and flipping the car, and it was already really dangerous. And I remember there were a bunch of distributors there. John Wetton was there. Mary was there. I remember Marcella von Harding was there, if I remember correctly. And they were all saying that, Gary, you got to be careful, blah, 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 especially with his injury history and his back injury. And the video that I saw was John Wetton dropping the camera onto the floor and running towards him. And what happened was the car flipped over, and he was trying to get out. He couldn't get out. So that's why John waited a long time and then didn't see the car coming back up. So he had to run and save him. So what happened? And then Gary got out of they call it an ATV, right? He got out of the ATV. They flipped the ATV, and Gary insists that he was okay. He asked them to continue shooting, and he said, I'll go to the hospital later. I'll go to the hospital when we're done shooting. So they finished the shoot. They finished all the shooting. He went to the hospital. Mary insisted that he went to the hospital and have him checked. And indeed, he actually had another compression thing with his spine. I am not a medical doctor. I don't know what you call it. So he injured his spine again. So if you remember in the first lesson, he actually had injured his spine when he had his tree accident. And so his spine has been broken in so many places, and he's already injured his spine. And everybody was like, Gary, we should have come to the hospital when you just got injured. And he said, what? And we prepared all of it, and everybody was ready and shooting, and I had to stop everyone from working so that I can go to the hospital and get checked. I'm not going to do that. And apparently that kind of injury, a normal person would not be able to move. So that actually tells you, I really wanted to tell you that story so that you get a glimpse of what kind of person he was, right? He wasn't going to stop shooting because everybody was already shooting. He didn't want to stop the progress because they've planned it, they've booked everything, and they went out to the sand dunes. And so that's what that's who he was. Let me keep sharing that presentation. And this is a photo that I took out of, I think, his blog. And this is the Gary that you see, right? Holding two jars, clay jars in his backpack. This was him in his element, okay? This was who he was. If you go to any large corporation, I mean, before he passed away, we were already a $2 billion US dollar company. Where can you find a $2 billion company CEO, the boss, the chairman of the board, doing this kind of stuff, right? So, yes. And so these are other little photos that I found of Gary, tell you who he really was for the people who have never been to convention, who have never met him. Indiana Jones. So he came out one year at convention as Indiana Jones. You might probably have found that video on YouTube under Young Living, in the Young Living accounts, Indiana Jones. So that was the year when he launched, I think, frankincense, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I haven't joined Young Living back then. And oh no, this was the one that he launched, frankincense. And so he came out as Indiana Jones. This was the one. And then this year he came out as, I don't know, a knight. And this year when they were launching Sacred Frankincense, they all dressed up and they came out like this. This wasn't the last convention, the second last convention, the convention where he injured his hand, 2016. He flew in at convention. So every year at convention, he has to make this like grand appearance, right? It's a drama guy. And so I've got another video, how he flew in in the convention 2016, if you weren't there. Oh no, sorry. Okay. This was actually the year that his last convention, he just did this sled dog, the Iditarod, and he went in. This was his entrance. It's always fun to have Gary, to wait for Gary's grand entrance. And that year he was very excited. And remember, this was in Salt Lake City in June. So it's just super hot. And he was wearing this snow gear with his dogs. So that's the kind of person that he was, right? And I want to share how he actually this one, we're going to talk about how he died. So we have to go back to 2010 when he was bitten by an insect in the Amazon forest. And as I talked about in the second or the third one, he went onto the Amazon. He was invited to go to Ecuador by Dr. Edgas. And while he was there, he realized that there are a lot of aromatic plants in the Amazon. So he continued to went on into the Amazon looking for aromatic plants, right? And so I love this one. I talked about it last time when he came out of the tent and it was raining because it's a rainforest and it was raining. And let me read this out to all of you. There's a reason they call it the Amazon rainforest. When it rains, it really pours. By the time you dig out your rain gear, it's too late. You're already drenched. You can put up a waterproof tent, but it will leak like a sieve. The rain is just relentless. John got a picture of me mopping up the tent and bringing out several gallons of rainwater. If the rain soaking your sleeping bag weren't enough, the raindrops sound like they're coming down from 200 miles an hour. It makes so much noise you cannot sleep. We got to see what the consistent rain and humidity does to a fallen date palm tree. As the tree begins to decay, grubs bore their way through, flattening themselves up on the oil-rich wood. Our guide chopped and pried open the fibrous wood of the rotting tree with his machete, tracing the tunnels made by the grubs until he dug out the fat, little Amazonian delicacy. I'll spare you the photos of me downing one of those barbecued critters. It was the first time I've ever eaten a grub in the jungle in the Amazon. I kept thinking what Mark, referring to Mark Schroeder, might have called this a shish kebabi. Can't you just hear him exclaiming, "Shish, Gary, you think I'm eating that?" Later that morning, we hiked along the river and back into the lagoon, searching for new plant species. When we got to the lagoon, our guide told us there were 6-meter-long alligators in the water and anacondas that run to 9 meters in length. That's about 28 feet long. While on the river, we had to be on the constant lookout for barbed bamboo. I've never seen anything like that. The barbs on this bamboo are like fish hooks, and they're about 1 every inch on the lower branches. Where the bamboo bends out over the water, you are definitely at risk. One snag, and your inflatable boat will go flat like a pancake. When walking, we had to watch out for devil's palm. They had 6-inch spikes that were so sharp they could go straight through your boot and your foot and come out of the top of your boot. But we also saw beautiful black flower whose fragrance you could smell a kilometer away. Flying out in our single-engine 6-seater Cessna was another adventure. In order not to overload the plane, and because the landing strip was so short, Giovanni took 1/2 of the gear and flew out, and then the plane came back for John and me. When we finally cleared the treetops and we were on our way, I couldn't help but make plans for a return trip. So this was back in 2009 in July. So I loved when I first started using Young Living and researching about the products. I loved reading the D. Gary Young blog and reading about Gary's adventure. He would keep up, like every week he would have a new adventure. Like every week he would be either in the Amazon, or he would be in Oman, or he would be in Africa, or some exotic places that I would only dream that I can go to, right? I still remember, like in my 20s, one of my dream places to go to was Morocco, right? Casablanca and Morocco, all those exotic places. And now, after being with Young Living, these are the places that I dream of going to, right? Because I want to have the adventure that he had. But reading about how dangerous it is to go adventure in the Amazon, I probably figure out, nah, probably not. But who else would do this? And why was he doing this? He was doing this because he wanted to find aromatic plants for us. So, and this actually was a blog post. You can still find this blog post. It was from dated 2011, January the 20th. So this actually was what happened to him by the unwanted invader. And this blog was written by Mary Young. And I remember because this was the year, this was actually the month that I joined, because I'm a reader. So I would read all the emails and this Essential Edge news that came with. And I remember reading this as it was being sent to the members. So on Saturday, January the 15th, as I watched Gary coughing so horribly, struggling to breathe with a high fever and intense pain, I started thinking about all the stress and difficulties we put on ourselves for the sake of a cause and a desire to give the world something better. At that moment, it didn't seem like a very good trade. Ever since we moved to Ecuador 5 years ago, Gary had been fascinated with the jungle. He loved the discovery of the unknown and was excited about finding new aromatic plants. I knew he was careful about what he ate and drank, but I was always concerned because I knew the jungle was full of attacking creatures and infectious dangers. But Gary was fearless, as his unconquerable spirit led him deep into the Amazon without worry for what could be in his path. He always came home with different kinds of bites that usually itched like crazy, but never more than that. I have experienced this with him time and time again. In Gary's words, on Saturday, January 15th, I flew home from Idaho, when we began our harvest of the balsam fir. I had developed a horrible gut-wrenching cough, high fever, and extreme fatigue. During the night, I had extreme difficulty breathing, and when I was in bed, I felt like I was drowning and had to resort to trying to sleep in the recliner. I could tell it was getting worse, so I decided to have Mary take me to the emergency room at the American Fork Hospital with the intent of getting oxygen and finding out what was happening to me. He received a lot of help, and they were able to open up his lungs a bit so that he could get more oxygen and relieve his pain. However, they could not find out what was wrong. The tests contradicted each other, came up negative, and left them baffled. The doctor, who we feel very competent, determined that he had a viral bronchitis and double pneumonia. But because Gary had been in the Amazon and in so many other places in the world, they were convinced that some exotic jungle disease was the cause of it all. So the doctor decided to send him to the infectious disease department of the University of Utah Hospital. So I gave you this map because remember how he was saying that he was in harvest, but actually while he was in the jungle and when he actually got bitten and then he got a fever and he used a lot. I still remember that in Mary's newsletter, if anybody was back there, you already a member, you probably, I don't even remember. It was in one of the emails, like the regular emails. I remember Mary said that he's already used up all the oils that he carried with him, but he was still feeling quite sick. And eventually, when he got home back into, because when he came out of the Amazon jungle, he went back to the farm, right? He went back to Nova Vita and his home in Ecuador. So he used up his oils. And when the fever subsided and he had plans to fly to Provence, because he was meeting Dr. Casabianca there. So he got better, his fever subsided, and he didn't want to postpone the trip because he has all these plans, he has all these scheduled to meet all these different people. So he flew to Provence in France. And then after, if I remember correctly, he stayed for 2 days. And then he flew to Oman to meet with Dr. Suhail so that they can work. This was 2011. So he was still building the distillery in Oman. So he had to, he flew to Oman and worked with Dr. Suhail on the distillery. And then he went to Somalia and he went to Kenya and then he went to Ethiopia to search for frankincense, not sacred frankincense, but regular frankincense, Qatari. We'll talk about frankincense in the second, like in the 7th or the 10th episode, like lesson. And then he was still coming on and off and he was okay, but he had oils with him. After Ethiopia, he flew home and then he went up to Idaho for winter harvest. Okay. So this January the 15th he was already in winter harvest. I remember this happened at the end of December. Okay. All right. So you have an idea that he was sick and he was still flying all over the place because he didn't want to postpone his schedule. All right. So after he got bitten, and they actually never found out anything, what happened to him, he just got better because he had what he had, he had the oils, he had supplements, he just got better. And I wanted to show you all the timeline from when he was bitten in December the 20th, 2010th until the day he died. Okay, so 8 years has passed since he passed away. This is a very important timeline. I know on the internet there are a lot of people who said that he died of cancer, he died of blah, 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 whatnot. And this is actually what happened to him. I was blessed enough. I actually started using Young Living December 2010th, but I just opened my account in January 2011, I think somewhere around there. So I remember what happened back then because I didn't know who Gary was. And this was just a story to me, right? But because I have really good memory, so I remember all of this. So I went back to the blog and tried to dig out the information. So December 2010th, he was in the Amazon jungle and he got bitten by this bug that was only in that you can only find in the Amazon. Okay. And this bug, after being bitten, it will give the person Chagas disease. And Chagas disease, 7 out of 10 people will die. Okay. And usually within 5 to, I think if I remember correctly, within 3 to 5 years, I can't really. Let me try to look it up. Chagas disease. I remember that most people will have brain damage, and they will also have this heart problems, and eventually most people die. 8 million people are infected worldwide, causing more than 20,000 deaths per year. It is found in Mexico, Central and South America. And then let me see. Acute is fever, fatigue, body aches, rashes, diarrhea, vomiting, and enlarged heart, enlarged esophagus and colon, and heart failure and death. Okay, so it is not common. And that is why when Gary was sick, they could not find it. They did not know what happened. Usually they bite when the person is sleeping. So this is exactly what happened to Gary. Okay. And after the bug bites, he will leave a parasite in the host body, and the parasite will start to grow. And eventually this parasite will eat up the brain and the heart, and obviously attack the lungs also. Okay. So that's the information on Chagas. Okay, so let me go back to my presentation. Okay, so, am I doing anything? Oh, shoot. Did I unshare? Okay. Okay, so 2010, December, and subsequently he continued to search for. So during this period of time, which I'm going to go through during the rest of the course, 2011, he was sick, but he was also building the distillery in Oman, and he was looking for frankincense. He went to Somalia, and he searched for, actually I have another timeline coming in the coming next lessons. I always have timelines to show between 2010 to 2013 what he did. So between 2010 to 2013, he built a distillery in Oman. He went to Somalia to search for frankincense Variana, which is Boswellia Variana. He also went into the Middle East. I'll have all the information in the lesson where we will talk about sacred frankincense. And then in 2012, that's when he went to Somalia. 2011, he built in Oman. 2012, he went to Somalia and he searched for frankincense. And then 2013, he built the distillery in Highland Flats here. This was actually from the first distillation. And then around the same time, he launched Nitro. This was when he he took the video where he injured his back again. Okay, the one that I showed you just now. And then in 2014, between 2014 to 2015 winter, he built the distillery in Fort Nelson through the cold of 10 degrees Fahrenheit to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. He worked in this cold weather working through the winter so that we can have black spruce, so that we can have valor. Okay, this really took a toll on him. And in 2015 to 2016, he went to Nepal and he started this Rebuild Nepal program. Okay, and then 2016, before convention, he injured his hand, his wrist, doing jousting practice. And this was the thing that eventually helped him discover all this problem. And regardless, despite that, the doctor told him not to travel. As soon as he was given the green light to travel, he went up to Alaska and it did a dog sled race, okay, and Iditarod, okay? So this was 2017, and 2018 January was his last public appearance, and that's when he started getting very sick. And he eventually passed away in 2018, May, okay? So 2016 June, this was the one when he injured his hand. This was the date, 21st of June, and when he was practicing. So we started convention on the Wednesday, on the 22nd that year. And he was, as you know, he always does this. He always did this jousting performance, this jousting thing, and during farm visits, so that we can experience, see what he really loves. He loved jousting, and when he was jousting, he injured his right hand. This photo was taken. This is Gretchen. She's now in the back supporting me. This photo taken by me. This was my photo, and he was bringing a warehouse visit because if I remember correctly, we had a new warehouse, and so he was very excited about it. And this was our diamond tour for the new warehouse. Okay, and I remember his hand was wrapped up, and I remember, oh my God, he hurt himself again, and so. What happened was he was jousting, he injured his hand, but he still continued to went through all of convention. He continued to fly in as his entrance. I found a video of him flying into the arena. Well, this was actually the year when we had it. There were like 10,000 people attending convention, and we couldn't do it in Salt Palace anymore, and we did it here in the arena. I remember we had two venues. We had the arena and we had Salt Palace, right? And this was the main stage. Let's see how he flew in.
Welcome, Young Living founder and chairman of the board, Gary Young.
Oh, if you can see him, there he is. Right? Oh my God. Give me some hearts if you're on your phone. Well, even when he injured his wrist, he wasn't going to stop, nothing was going to stop him from doing anything, from doing the things he wanted to do. So this was the blog from August 17th. This was just after when convention, right? So Gary said, people say fear keeps me from being successful. No, it is not fear. Fear means false evidence appearing real. FEAR. That's what fear is. People have used the old fear word for the escape forever. It is not the fear of being successful that is keeping you from building your business. It's the risk. Why are you afraid to take the risk? Are you afraid somebody will criticize you? Are you afraid you don't know enough? You often take risks, even when you're playing a game. And I think most of you have seen me holding my hand and being a wuss in the last few days. I tore my hand Tuesday morning jousting in practice, but I haven't quit. I put a brace on, I ace wrapped it and taped it, and I jousted again yesterday. When it hurt, yes, it hurt, but it felt good when I knocked the other guy off the horse. It's the only sport where you can hit another man with a big stick and get paid to do it. Don't let a little pain stop you when you want to succeed. Block your mind to keep it and block your mind to it and keep blocking it. I didn't have to get in that arena Wednesday morning and yesterday afternoon, and I don't have to do it today. I simply don't have to do it. Mary said to me, honey, I wish you wouldn't. And I said, I have to. She said, no, you don't have to. And she was absolutely right. I didn't have to, but I have to. Here's the reason why I chose to keep jousting. I did it to be an example to you. I won't stop because it hurts a little bit. I will always do, and I will always stand in front. I work every day to be an example to you, and I'll never ask you to do something I won't do. So that was, I felt that was really good to share, because so you all know what kind of person he was. He was always the one in front. As you continue to watch all these lessons, you will see it. He's always an example. He will never ask us to do something that he won't do. But then there's a lot of things he won't do. He will do that I won't. And so I'm going to start reading the letters that were sent to us. And I hope you won't feel bored, but I felt that this is important for me to read out all the letters that were sent to us, because I think a lot of members here joined Young Living after 2016. And there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of myth around his death. And there was just, people make it like a mystery, but there's so much transparency in it. And I felt it is important to have the truth out there. So I spent time working, like making all of this. And I will be reading out some letters that were told not to share, but since it has been 4 years plus, I feel like it is a good time to show everybody what actually happened. So I'm going to start reading out this letter that was actually written by Gary. And all right, so it was sent to all of us in December 2016. If you were a member already back then, you probably remember reading it. A Christmas message to our members. I am sitting on British Airways flight 19194 en route from Houston to London after completing the final scans to determine the surgery procedure to repair my heart. So this was 6 months after the hand injury, okay? This has been an ongoing saga since June 21st, 2016. That resulted from a badly placed PICC line following the reconstructive surgery on my right hand that was injured while jousting the day before a convention. Okay, so they put a PICC line in, but they made a mistake. Many of you had read Mary's periodic reports that have kept you aware of my situation. However, I would like to tell you a few more details and why I'm so excited about what I have experienced. After the surgery, I had a PICC line placed for some vitamins and mineral therapy. The PICC line was misplaced and hit the heart, causing irregularity in the beat and pulmonary embolisms in both lungs and the heart, which were discovered after I was admitted to the hospital on July 1st. The day after the surgery, I started having slight back pain, which gradually became worse. A day later, Mary took me to the hospital at 2 a.m. because the pain became excruciating and I was having trouble breathing. My oxygen saturation was down to 72% and I was losing consciousness. Okay, let's pause here. Remember the video that I showed you in the beginning of this video? The Nitro video, when he jumped off the cliff in the sand dunes and rolled around and hurt his back again. He could still continue to shoot despite the injury on his spine, okay? But here, he said the pain became excruciating. If you know Gary, he actually had always been in pain every single day since his injury. And that's why he developed all the oils, say, namely, Panaway, Coolasu, the oil, Panaway, Coolasu, the oil, Coolasu pain relief cream, Coolasu sports gel, deep relief. These were all made for himself because he needed it, right? Okay, so if he said the pain became excruciating, I think most of us would have fainted already. Okay, that was the beginning of what has followed the last 7 months. Besides that, August 4th revealed another issue discovered by the infectious disease department that suggested from several tests that I had markers of a parasitic virus that seemed congruent with Chagas, infection from a bite that I received in the jungle in Western Peru while looking for aromatic plants 6 years ago, which is considered fatal and claims over 10,000 lives in the jungle annually. Thanks to my friend, Dr. Oliver Wenker, who has helped me immensely. I flew to Houston for further diagnosis. I was 4 times at the MD Anderson Hospital, where in-depth tests were more and more diagnoses were made, and 2 times at the Methodist Hospital, renowned for its cardiology and pulmonary centers, and stayed 7 to 10 days each visit. I have been to the University of Utah Hospital 2 times and was once life flighted from the ranch, ending to a 3 to 5 day stay. The reason why I put Dr. Oliver Wenker's photos here is so that I'm not sure if everybody knows him. Oliver Wenker has, because of what happened to him back in 2015, if I remember correctly, if you have heard him speak back then, he had a virus that attacked his brain, and it was affecting the brain where he was balancing. So he couldn't actually walk. He had to be in a wheelchair. And because being a medical doctor himself, he's actually a super well-qualified medical doctor who is now retired and focused mainly full-time on educating on young living. And Dr. Oliver Wenker is a very respected doctor in the MD Anderson Hospital in Houston. And he was the one who made all the connections so that Gary could go and get treated in the hospital and also at the Methodist Hospital. And his own story, Dr. Oliver Wenker's story, it's amazing on his own. And he eventually recovered using tons of oils. And he used to laugh at Gary, well, jokingly, Gary used to say that he would take like 200 drops of oils, something like that, 100 drops of oils a day orally. And Ollie would say, well, he takes 100 drops, I take 200 drops. Like he would make so much fun of it. It's really funny. So Dr. Wenker and Gary eventually became best friends, and Oliver Wenker traveled extensively with him. Look up Biocode Academy. So every year, Dr. Oliver Wenker would do this online symposium, and he's invited a lot of different leaders to speak for him. I did it for 4 or 5 years. I encourage you all to go and follow him. He does a lot of education. He's going to be speaking at convention next week. So anyway, that's what I wanted to show all of you. Then this is a PICC line. Usually it's inserted either here or here on the chest. And this is what happened was it hit his heart and his lungs. Okay. This photo was taken at Diamond Retreat. There was a raindropped event in Croatia back in 2015, if I remember correctly. Yes, it was 2015. 2015, and Dr. Wenker was the main speaker at that event. He is super well qualified as a medical doctor. Okay, let me continue to read the email. I was misdiagnosed in January 2011. With malaria, tuberculosis, dengue, Lyme disease, Addison's, and after 4 months was finally diagnosed with an unknown virus and released from the University of Utah Infectious Disease Ward. However, I continued to have problems and never felt like I was totally on top of things. I developed a chronic cough and have had shortness of breath since that time. The doctors have been amazed and have asked how it is that I did not manage to die. I simply said, it's the oils that I distill from the plants that I grow. The pulmonary embolism should have killed you. The pulmonary hypertension with pleural infusion should have killed you. The blood clots in your heart should have killed you. And the mini stroke could have killed you. As the pulmonary specialist at Methodist Hospital looked at my scans, she kept saying, this is a miracle. It just isn't possible. I have never seen this before. So this was the hospital, the Methodist Hospital, a photo of that. Today, there are no blood clots in my lungs, no pleural infusion, no hypertension, and the lungs have completely regenerated. This is not possible in Western medicine, but it has been documented in 2 major hospitals, which is the Methodist Hospital and the MD Anderson. Okay, no blood clots in the heart, no hemochromatosis, regenerated lungs. This is a medical miracle. Mr. Young, we would like to write a research paper with you. Western medicine needs to know about this. Again, how did you do this? Because with Western medicine, it is impossible. I simply say with humility and thanksgiving, it is God's miracle when 31 years ago, he gave me essential oils that now come from plants that I grow and distill on my farms around the world. I was released to fly today, and you can only imagine my excitement and the tears shed as I thank everyone for the countless prayers and for God's gifts, as he opened doors for me to explore, study, investigate, learn, and experience the life-giving essences from the plants he has given us for the benefit of mankind, regardless of the problems, emotional, spiritual, physical. I was released to fly today, and you can only imagine my excitement as this was read already. I'm deeply saddened by those who market and adulterate his pure essences for money, which makes me more proud of all of you who embrace the truth and have fought in my defense for Young Living. Please take time to give thanks to God for all we have. Don't worry about those who have dangled false carrots to capture blind rabbits. Let them go with thanksgiving, not anger or animosity. These people are following the promise of money. Let them walk their path for the lessons they need in life. I met a nurse in the cardiology lab on one of my many visits who told me her biggest challenge was finding pure oils. She had bought some from a company claiming to be pure, and they gave her daughter a horrible rash, resulting in hospitalization. Later, after sending them off to a lab, she found out they were cut with synthetics. She kept looking and found Young Living, but felt reluctant to try our oils after her first experience. She told me she prayed for clarity, and a few days later, I walked into the hospital for a cardiology scan. It was a day she was supposed to be off, but had to come in because the other nurse was sick. Give thanks to your introduction to Young Living and your sponsor, your organization above, below, and to the side of you. We all play a part in each other's life, and for that, we should be grateful. Because the demand for oils is already more than what is produced in the world, many suppliers cut the oils and sell them to anyone who will buy. I don't want to be fooled, and I won't be fooled, which is why I built a multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art laboratory and why we go into extra mile in our testing. In the early days, I could smell an oil and know, but we are too big now, and I'm not always available. Our quality control department is very stringent and makes sure that you receive nothing but the best. Yes, we have perhaps the most sophisticated lab in the world for the analytical analysis of essential oils and a library to support it. This is not something you can buy. It takes years and years to build the right laboratory and the right library with literally millions of molecules for references for the staff and for training. We don't invest our money in fancy cars, boats, vacation homes, and lavish travel. We invest in land, farm equipment, distilleries, laboratories, infantry, infrastructures, and the like. We're the only company in the world with farms and partner farms and the complete seed-to-seal process by which every distillery has to abide. Every partner farmer to abide to buy and sign a contract to follow Young Living standard that I created years ago as I built a distillery and farms. Young Living continues to invest in your future for your up and coming new generations of leaders. We have a right to claim our position as the world leader in essential oils because I started building the foundation 28 years ago. We are the first to start a non-existent market trend by bringing essential oils to the world market through the vehicles of network marketing, which had never been done before. We developed that market, conducted research, and published our findings. We are the only company with a seed-to-seal process that starts with developing the farms, building distilleries, processing, bottling, shipping, and educating. We are the first to formulate blends and supplements with infused oils. We are the first to conduct university studies with ongoing clinical research and published findings. We are a stable and continually growing company with double-digit growth each month. We have several patents and many trademarks as we develop new and innovative products and recently won the Utah 2015 Genius Award for the third most trademarks filed in the States. We have the D. Gary Young Living Foundation, to which members generously give to promote education and health for the poor in third world countries such as Cambodia, saving children and young women from slave trade, with over 1,000 having been recovered today, Uganda fighting malaria, Jiggers building a medical clinic and school to teach better health practices, Croatia supporting an orphanage, Ecuador supporting schools and a health spa, Nepal rebuilding homes and schools, and many other projects. With more than 30 years of experience farming aromatic plants and developing proprietary methods of distilling, we have 15 corporate partner farms worldwide in more than 12 countries, where we provide hundreds of jobs and improve the economy of community. So, as I continue reading his letter, I would like to point a note to everybody who's watching this. Young Living is the 7th biggest network marketing company in the world. And it's privately owned, it's not public. So we can control how we invest our money and how Young Living can do his research. Because if it goes public, we cannot be the board, the shareholders becomes the people who control how we do our products and how we run our company. So in order for us to be able to control because as we invest in farms and build the seed to seal and invest in quality, for anybody who's in a normal business mindset, this doesn't actually make business sense because the amount of money you have to invest in building the farm. And that is why Gary used to always say, and I'm sure it will always continue to be, that Young Living will be a private company because they have to control the processes of creating blends and making sure that our quality is the best. Okay, does that make sense? And we have been, in the past 3 years, the top 7 essential network marketing company in the world. That's gigantic. Okay. And in fact, in the US, it's actually the biggest network marketing company. And in Hong Kong, it's second biggest after Amway. And anyway, so, and then of course, Young Living Foundation have tons of different projects all over the world, helping people. And if you do not know, or if you weren't there last week, all of Young Living Foundation's admin fee are paid by Young Living. So every single cent that you donate and Young Living Foundation receive goes into all the projects, okay? Let me continue to read the email. With more than 30, whether we're developing farms or opening countries for business, we follow legal direction and channels of operation and teach people to build the right way. We lead by example, not by talk. We don't slander other companies or try to buy the distributors with false promises. We don't copy. We invent and create. Yes, we have earned the title of world leader, and you can claim it without having to make excuses or argue. Let us be humble and show gratitude to God and our fellow men. Respect the opinion of others and allow them to walk their paths by encouraging and supporting them. We have the greatest people in leadership in the corporate offices around the world, and at no time has it been stronger and more harmonious than it has been now. We will always have growing pains, again, the mark of a world leader, but that only promotes progress and innovative leadership. As Mary and I look back and see what we have overcome and accomplished, we are filled with tremendous emotion of amazement and gratitude. It is without question a great compliment to all of you for your trust and dedication as we continue to grow. And with God at the helm protecting and guiding us, we cannot fail. Our future has never looked so beautiful as it does now going into 2017. Thank you again for your continued prayers as I recover. You have contributed greatly in saving my life as well as half the oils. In my opinion, the most powerful forces on earth are the power of prayer, love, and God's oils. Mary, Jacob, Joseph, and I sent our prayers on this Thanksgiving to you this Christmas season and for the coming new year, and with continued love and appreciation for all you do to spread the message of Young Living. Essentially yours, D. Gary Young, founder and chairman of the board. P.S. Here are some of the oils and supplements that I use daily. Frankincense, helichrysum, northern lights, black spruce, idol, balsam fir, thieves, digize, lavender, cypress, cistus, ledum, RC, eucalyptus blue, dorado azul, zucca, cool azul, pan away, stress away, highest potential, shutron, dreamcatcher, forgiveness, acceptance, joy, aroma life, aroma seeds, essential zyme 4, detoxime, juvatone, juva power, multigreens, alkaline, megacal, mindwise, sleepy eyes, cool azul, pain relief cream, Ningxia red nitro, post-state health, comfort tone, pure protein complete, slick shake, Life 9, Inner Defense, Digest and Cleanse. Okay. All right. I want to share with you how Gary used products. I had the opportunity and I had the blessing to go snowmobiling with him once. I just went down. I was just with him at I was just with him at Winter Harvest, and I told him I was going to go to corporate to have meetings with the leaders, like the office, the executives, to talk about Hong Kong. And so I told him that, hey, Gary, I'm going to go down to corporate next on Monday, because usually we finish Winter Harvest on Sunday. So he goes, oh, wow, you have to come to Tabiona to come see the ranch. I said, okay. So on Monday, I was supposed to have a meeting. No, Tuesday, I was supposed to have a meeting at corporate. He called me on Monday night. He said, Joanne, would you like to go snowmobiling? I said, yeah, sure. So Tuesday morning, and then he goes, well, I'm going to ask them to come and pick you up. So back then, the CEO came to pick me up. Oh, we met at corporate. We met at the old corporate office. And then so he drove me to, I don't know, it's just like 2 hours drive away to somewhere out of nowhere. And we went snowmobiling. And he wanted to put me on he wanted to put me on the fastest snowmobile. He said, there's your snowmobile, Joanne. And I said, I don't know how to ride a snowmobile. I don't even know how to ride a bicycle. He goes, oh, okay. Then you take the other one. Anyway, one thing led to another. We, after like driving for another hour, another 2 hours, we went to this gigantic slope, and he asked me to hop on to his back, and he drove like crazy. And I keep screaming. I held on to him, and he was like jumping through loops and coops and blah, blah, blah. And he was having so much fun, and he laughed so hard. So if you want to know my experience, it would be very similar to Kelly's experience. Go to YL Drop and look up Kelly's experience with snowmobiling. It's nearly exactly the same. So watch that. And then so after that, we spent the whole day snowmobiling. And when we came out, he ran into a rock, and he injured his left leg, if I remember correctly. And he was so injured that he couldn't walk. So they had to carry him into the truck, and he was in the driver's seat. And when everybody was hiding up, they were like parking the snowmobile loading the snowmobile into the semi. I asked them where Gary was, and they told me that Gary wanted to drive. So back then there were the CEO, the CMO, Gary, me, my ex-husband, and Skylar, who looked after the Tabiona range. There were only 5 of us, and Jacob, yes. And so everybody was hiding up. They were all packing stuff, and Gary was in his truck. And I walked up to him, and I said to him, how are you? He's like, I'm okay. So I dig out, I always carry a essential oil pouch with me for emergency. So I had like frankincense, helichrysum, lemongrass for your pulled ligament. So I had frankincense, helichrysum, panaway, lemongrass in it. And so I gave him my pouch, and I said, maybe you can use this. So he said, what do you have here? Oh, panaway. Oh, this used to be my go-to oil. So he dropped some in his hand, and then he put it on his cough. And then frankincense, he took it out, he sniffed it, and he put some on. And then he took out the lemongrass. I said, in case you pulled the ligament. And then he put some on, and he rubbed it on. And then he took out the helichrysum. He pulled out the helichrysum. He goes, oh, I have my own bottle. So he leaned back. He went to his ski jacket. He dug it out. So he always have a bottle of helichrysum in his pocket. So he dug out the helichrysum, and then he put it on and said, it's expensive for you. I'm like, what? So he put it on his hand, and then he put it on, and then he dug through it. And then he goes, oh, and I had a bottle of highest potential with me. He took it out, and he smiled. He opened it, and he put some on his nose, and he went, ah. And you can see that he was content, right? Like, I felt so blessed that I had his favorite bottle of oil with me, because highest potential was his favorite oil. He wore it every day. He wore sacred frankincense and highest potential every day. And I had both of them in my bag. So I put it on. And then I said to him, I heard that you said you're going to drive back, but you are not allowed to. You have to let them drive, and you have to go to the other side, to passenger side, because You can't fire me. I said, they're afraid that they won't. They're afraid that you won't listen to them. None of us want you to drive, and you're not allowed to drive. And you can fire them, but you can't fire me. So you're listening to me. So, and then I said to them, I said, come, he's willing not to drive. Come, bring him over to the other side. So they had to actually literally carry him to the passenger side. He was like a good little kid, you know? So anyway, we went back to Tabiona. And when we went to Tabiona, he was sitting on his couch and he wanted to show me around. He's like, I'm going to show you around. I said, no, just please sit down. And I saw that he was in pain. And then I said, hey, do you have like capsules? I have copaiba and frankincense in my bag. If you can find balsam fir, I can make you a capsule. It will help with your pain. And then he said, oh, you know what? I have a better idea. I said, oh. So he goes, go grab a glass, go to the fridge and grab the Mindwise and the mineral essence, and then go to my bathroom. Oh, no, not the mineral essence. He said Mindwise. Go to the back and then go to my bathroom and find the frankincense and the helichrysum. So Jacob took a glass and then poured the Mindwise, took the Mindwise out. He asked me to pour 100 ml, if I remember correctly. He asked me to put 100 ml of Mindwise and go find and then put 80 drops of helichrysum and 80 drops of frankincense in the Mindwise for him. I went into his bathroom. I looked through the counter. I looked under the counter. I found only the bottle of frankincense, but it was in a mineral essence bottle. That's why the bottle is here. It was in the size of the mineral essence. Of course, it doesn't have a mineral essence label. It has a frankincense label, but it was this size. Okay, this is how Gary used his oils. Of course, he's the boss. So I took this out. I could not find the helichrysum. And then he took this and then he used the pump and he put like, I think 3 pumps of frankincense into the glass of Mindwise. I remember it was like a rock glass. And he poured the Mindwise. He put about half a glass of the Mindwise in, which was 120 ml, right? Because 250 is a glass. So he poured half a glass of Mindwise. He put 3 pumps of frankincense, but because I couldn't find his helichrysum, I took out my bottle of helichrysum. It was brand new. And he said, and I said, oh, you know what? I couldn't find it. Just use this. And he said, but it's expensive. But it's expensive for you. I get it for free. I'm like, what? You saved my life and you changed my life and you're talking to me about a bottle of helichrysum? And then I said, besides, I bought it with my commission check. And he laughed. So I opened it and I was going to count helichrysum, count 50 drops. I'm like, okay, whatever. This is like 100 drops. Just drink the whole thing. So I poured the whole bottle of helichrysum into the Mindwise and the frankincense concoction. And he drank it. Okay. This was how he used essential oils. And interestingly, I made that for him. And then I went and he could stand up, but he couldn't walk before he drank this. He could not put pressure onto his leg at all. And then he wanted to show me around. I asked him to sit down. I went around the house by myself. And then I came back and he could walk with a limp. And I was like, wow, that actually really worked very fast. I'm not telling you. So disclaimer, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm not asking you to drink the whole bottle of helichrysum. Okay. I'm not asking you to put 100 drops or 80 drops of frankincense into whatever concoction that you decide to make. I'm just telling you, this is how I witnessed him used it. Okay. And for me, I always felt that the bottle instruction of Mindwise is too little, 2 tablespoons. I would totally like double that, which is 2 tablespoons is 30 ml. 60 ml is double that. 60 ml is 4 tablespoons, right? So yeah, Mindwise takes 4 tablespoons and it works. Like if you cannot feel that it's working, you're not taking enough. So Mindwise is supposed to really help you with your memory. Like, you know how when you're like, going into your room and you can't remember what you're doing, why you went into the room, what you wanted to get, and then you came back out and you're, oh, now I remember. That, Gary said, is premature dementia. And that's why Gary made Mindwise. So you have to drink Mindwise if you have that kind of memory loss, okay? Short-term memory thing, okay? All right. So, and after that, that little episode is, I just wanted to show you how Gary used products. And because I was reading the email that he sent us, he was telling us what kind of products he was using every day. And so I just thought that we can share how he used products, right? And so remember how he was cleared to fly and he already immediately flew to London? And that was 2016 December, right? So 2017 January, he applied to take part in the toughest race on Earth, Iditarod. This was a race through Alaska in the temperature between 30 Fahrenheit and 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was freaking cold, okay? And this is how he was dressed. So on January the 8th, 2017, Gary was in Alaska with the CV family getting ready to start his first training for the Iditarod, a dangerous sport he was barely trained for. On that trip, he ran 2 10-mile runs and 1 20-mile run, and then he went home. And that was it. That was all his training, all the training that he did, okay? He joined the race, and as one of the oldest participant and the most inexperienced. He ran the first race in 200 miles, and a week later, he signed up for another 300-mile race. He did not. Everybody was very surprised how well he tolerated it. And with that illness that he still had, okay, in the freezing cold. This guy. All right. I put this in. If you had been in Gary's emotional workshop in person, this was a movie that he would show a small clip of this movie. This is actually one of his favorite movies. It's about Iditarod. And the clip that he did was really helped me remove some of my emotional trauma. I have inserted this. It's a trailer. Okay, it's a trailer of the movie Iron Will. It's a Disney movie. You can easily look it up. You can easily find it. And it's based on a true story. And I think this is one of Gary's favorite movies was because of how the Iron Will, Gary actually made an oil called Iron Will and he gave it out during men's camp. Anyway, so let's watch the video. Ooh, what happened? Jesus. I don't know how this works. All right. Okay, based on the true story. Let's play this. What? What? I'm so sorry, guys. How to play this? It is a video. I promise you. There we go. Yes.
If you want something real bad, you've got to go out where you can find it and grab it.
I want to feel alive. I want to feel like Dad's alive. He was gonna do this for me. Now let me do it for him.
We are here about a race.
A boy thrust into manhood.
Let them race. You won't last through the first day.
I'll last as long as any man here, including you, mister.
522 miles.
This is the meanest stretch of land that God ever put together.
$10,000, Will. You don't have to die for it.
I'll wager $5,000 he doesn't make heartbreak hell.
You've got one chance. You must run at night when the others have stopped.
You ever had frostbite? You will. Your fingers and toes, they're gonna look like this.
I'm not quitting.
A challenge as deadly as nature's fury and man's greed.
What's the matter, kid? You scared?
A will as strong as iron.
The kid's in the lead.
The whole country's rooting for you.
Iron Will Stone. Boy, is the heart of a bear.
Catch him. Stop him.
You tried to kill my dog.
In the classic tradition of Walt Disney Adventures comes the incredible story of a boy who faced his fears
Come near me or my team again, I'll kill you outright.
and rallied a nation
It's done. It's not possible.
to believe
Attaboy, we'll give him something to talk about back home.
in a dream. Iron Will.
All right. Okay. Okay. Oops. Okay. So you guys get an idea, right? I'm going to stop share right now because I'm going to be sharing something else. So you get an idea of what an Iditarod was and what it meant to Gary. Okay. So, and I'm going to start reading 3 letters that were written by Mary to send to the Diamonds. As I said, we have been asked not to share some of them, but I felt like this is the right time to do it. So this is going to be quite difficult for me to read. Let me see. Letter 7. Okay, I should read this first. All right. This was actually in an email, so I copied and pasted out. And all right, let's see. Okay. So we're only allowed to share when we're asked. So this was written in April 25th of 2018. This was, yes, April 25th of 2018. So this was letter 7. Wait, hold on. No. What? I'm sorry. No, this is not the one. Sorry. This was actually letter number 2. This is letter number 1. Okay. So almost a year has gone by since my last report, but as many questions has been asked, I feel it is time to give you another update. This past year had been very difficult and challenging for Gary, as we have dealt with more of the long-term problems that are a result of a terrible accident in 1973 and the damage from the bite in the jungle in 2009. I think it was 2010. This letter was sent to us in 2017 because his injury was in 2016, right? And then the last letter that I read out just now was in 2016. And then in 2017, January, he went to take the Iditarod. So this letter was sent to us in 2017. I cannot remember the exact date. So since Gary and I have been married now for 23 years, he has had a few painless days. The doctors told him many years ago, after the accident, that he could expect to experience progressive degeneration and arthritis conditions. You can read in my book, D. Gary Young, the World Leader in Essential Oils, about the details of the accident. But needless to say, he suffered 3 open skull fractures, a herniated spinal cord in 2 places, 19 broken bones, and extensive internal injuries. The prognosis then was that he would be confined to a wheelchair for life with the use of only his left arm. But Gary would not accept that fate, and with unparalleled determination, got out of the wheelchair after 27 months and learned to walk again over a 13-year time period. Since that accident, he has broken his back 3 times, which has increased his pain and caused more damages. One of the times was when I showed you during the Nitro shoot, the video, okay? And when doctors took his x-rays, they simply cannot understand how he walks, let alone participates in so many extreme outdoor activities. Gary has always challenged himself and often made the statement that if you are not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. He told me that the extreme sports cause a huge adrenaline rush, which masks the pain for a short time, giving him some relief. Part of Gary's personality is to explore and discover new things in God's aromatic plant kingdom. He probably felt most excited going into remote areas where no researcher or scientist had ever been. He was so thrilled to tell me that what he saw in the Amazon jungle of Ecuador and Peru, he was simply, completely in his element. He loved being with the simple tribal people and was always looking for ways to build schools and bring education to underprivileged children. However, this very environment was the beginning of more misery for Gary in many other ways. One fateful night, sleeping on the floor in a jungle hut, he was bitten by an unseen critter. When he awoke in the morning, he had a 2-inch welt on his side and was painful and oozing a whitish color liquid. He doused it with thieves in purification and then ignored it and continued with his plans. He returned to Ecuador for a couple of days and then left for France to study with Dr. Casabianca, which was when he started to notice a slight fever. He traveled to Oman, Kenya, and Ethiopia, from where he called to say he had a high fever and was feeling terrible. I changed his ticket and brought him home as quickly as I could. After he returned home, he felt a little better and left for Highland Flats for the harvests. But he didn't feel much better and came home to Alpine coughing and feeling horrible. On a side note, when he went to Harvest, he would go to Harvest on Tuesday, and then he would come home on Saturday night. He would go home to Alpine, like to Utah. So the winter harvest is in Idaho. So he would fly down to Utah on a Saturday night or Monday morning, and then spend the Sunday and Monday with his family. So he would spend Sunday with his family, and then Monday at the office, and then Tuesday again at the office, and Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, he would fly up to Idaho. This has always been his schedule during winter harvest. Okay. So, but he didn't feel much better and came home to Alpine coughing and feeling horrible. I ended up taking him to the emergency room, from where he was transported to the University of Utah Infectious Disease Department. After being diagnosed with several different maladies, the report from the Center for Disease Control in Rochester, New York, came back as an unknown virus. After being filled with all kinds of antibiotics and other medications, he did feel better, so we left the hospital and Gary went back to his normal activities. However, as time went on, he continued to cough and was short of breath, and most of the time, he never really felt his normal, strong self. When I asked him about the cough, he would respond with something like, "I know it isn't normal. I should see an internalist and see what the problem is." But he would never take time. He was always on the go and had big plans and creating lots of excitement within the walls of Young Living. The coughing led to more weakness, pulmonary embolism, which at first we thought were kidney stones, pleural effusions from dying lung tissues, and more pain. Obviously, things weren't getting better. He talked with Dr. Ollie Winker at Men's Camp 2 years ago, who invited him to come to Houston, where he had been working in various hospitals for over 20 years. Dr. Winker, although recently retired, know the right people to contact and move us through the channels, accomplished in 1 week what normally can take 6 months. We met with one of the top cardiologists, who is also a YL member, and began another road of discovery. I just mentioned the jungle bite, and the doctor looked at us with a kind of aha expression and said, "That sounds like chagas." So, what is chagas? Never having heard that word before, we began our search for more information, and the doctors continued with the test in effort to find an answer for Gary. After 7 years of wondering, we felt we had some answers. Gary fit right into the chagas profile. He had tremendous premature heartbeats, PVCs, and very dangerous heart arrhythmia. He was told that he had an ablation in the heart, where surgically doctors go through the blood vessels and into the heart to burn the areas where the heart is misfiring. He would be greatly helped. Gary decided to have surgery, during which they discovered the hole in his heart and a large scar over the central area where several cardiac nerves converge. After 5 ablations, the surgeon felt that it could not be safe to do anymore. Gary did much better afterwards, but the doctors said it would be necessary to put in a pacemaker defibrillator to maintain normal heart function. We went forward with their recommendation and afterwards returned home to Utah. However, the first night at home, when Gary turned over in bed, he received a shock and woke me up to say we were having an earthquake. After a few nights of continuous shocking, we were again in emergency of the University of Utah, where X-rays showed that one of the 2 leads in the defibrillator was not connected anymore and was just swinging free in the upper heart chamber. What next? With great frustration, Gary asked to have it taken out, but the doctors were reluctant because they wanted to be sure he didn't need it. That was understandable. The defective wire was turned off and the device was then set to a more basic function. In January of this year, Gary became listless and seemed to be fading into an unresponsive state of mind, which we thought was caused by his pain. As the situation became intense, he was taken again to emergency. Many tests were taken, but they could not find the root cause, and so he moved into intensive care. While in ICU, an internist on duty decided to do a different type of blood test, which was when Gary tested positive for gram-negative bacteria. Okay, this email was actually written in January 2018, because I remember when he recovered from this is gram-bacteria. English, it's called it'll come back to me. The doctors moved quickly. Sepsis. Yes, that's what it is. It's actually sepsis. The doctors moved quickly with specific medication for this type of infection, to which Gary rapidly responded. He was soon on top of it, and the infection seemed to be gone. Because after he recovered from sepsis, I saw him again in January or December. In December. Yes, in December. And we were home for 5 days during the time he promoted Jared Turner to the position of president of Young Living, which he announced at the Diamond Call. Then we had a red carpet ceremony on Monday for Ben Howden, and which he announced by Tuesday, he began complaining about how weak he felt. Thursday morning was worse to the point of his fainting, so I called 911 and the ambulance came for him. After more blood tests, it was discovered that the infection was raging again and spreading rapidly through his body, causing tremendous neurological damage and inflammation, which led to encephalitis and stroke-like complications, which is also known to happen with Chagas. His motor skills were affected and swelling in his brain caused horrible headaches as well. After a couple of days, the headache subsided and Gary was able to converse with the doctors, helping them determine what he needs worse. During all this time, Gary's back pain increased, but the question of the safety of an MRI with a medical device in his chest was always the discussion. Everyone wanted to help, but were uncertain about what to do. Not knowing the state of his spine, but with his pain continued to intensify until finally the consensus of all the doctors was to go ahead. And on January the 30th, he went in for the MRI, which lasted for 5.5 hours. Lying still on a flat table for that long and trying not to move by itself was terribly painful. Many detailed images were taken, enabling doctors to see what was going on in his spine. The pain doctor said that the back pain is one of the most difficult problems to treat. The blood tests indicated that the infection was gone, so now they had to determine how they could best give Gary some pain relief. As most people know, spinal fluid surrounds the spinal cord to protect it and maintain mobility and fluidity. However, in Gary's case, the spinal fluid decreases going down the spine until there was no fluid, and the nerves in the lower back were severely pinched by the surrounding vertebrae. There is also bone degeneration and some arthritis, which isn't surprising considering all his injuries. Those injuries include breaking his back 3 times with severe damage to many of the vertebrae. Every vertebra had either been fractured, broken, or crushed with severe compression and distortion. The problem of freeing him from pain seems almost insurmountable. Many options were discussed, but they all came with risk. They were reluctant to cut into the skin because that could lead to possible infection again. It was finally decided on February the 12th to give him an epidural injection in the nerve center from where most of the pain was coming from. The doctor said it went well and there were no complications, but the pain persisted. Gary complained about going through the pain of the epidural when there was no pain relief. The doctor said it would take between 24 hours to 48 hours for him to feel some relief, which after 2 days, he did think the pain seemed less. The epidural injection is short-term at best, but hopefully it will give Gary time to recover and for the doctors to determine if there were a long-term solution. Hopefully, we will have more answers in the next 3 months. Pain is very debilitating mentally and physically, and with the effects of the infection, of the weakening effects of Chagas that went undiagnosed for 7 years, the challenge is huge for Gary. Amazingly enough, Gary has much that he wants to accomplish yet in his life, and his fighting spirit is still very strong. We all have seen Gary overcome and do the unexpected, and that belief is still out there. We are blessed with Gary's knowledge of the oils and the supplements that he formulated, which we are using every day. Amazingly enough, his progress is far beyond the doctors can comprehend, which makes us smile. Gary is still very much himself and keeps everyone laughing with his charming wit. His brilliant mind is very much engaged in our growth, especially with the development of new farms, including the flour mill and the distillery in Taviona. We know that so many of you have held him in your prayers, which he feels every day. I just returned from the 3rd graduation of a Young Living Academy in Ecuador, which was so beautiful. Everywhere I looked, I saw Gary's face, vision, and love for the people of Ecuador, whose lives he has so deeply touched. I was overwhelmed with the love they feel for him and our family and their expressions for God's power in our lives. The doctors have advised for Gary not to fly, and so for the next few months, he will be focusing on his healing, which is important to all of us. Unfortunately, that means Gary and I will not be in Croatia, and that is very sad for him, and he loves so much to teach Raindrop, which is so close to his heart. However, Tamara Packer, our international raindrop trainer, will be leading the raindrop training with Dr. Chad Goodman, Director of Young Living Training and Education. Dr. Sabina DeVita will be teaching emotional clearing. Sherry Ross will be teaching about nutrition and Young Living supplements. Dr. Oliver Winker will be teaching about the brain and emotional strategies. Dr. Marcella von Harting will be teaching about conscious language and face reading in business application. And Del Belitzo will be teaching the compensation plan and business building. These trainers have studied with Gary and are well trained by him. He's very enthusiastic that they're able to be with you. So they make a dynamic team, and all who attend will be greatly rewarded. I would ask all of you to visualize Gary walking on stage at our next convention healthy, strong, and completely healed. He has felt your love and prayers over the past few years and is truly making a difference. The unknown is a strange place to find oneself when you go forward looking for answers in such a complex situation. Gary and I express our love and appreciation to all of you every day for your dedication and continued support in staying true to Gary's vision and taking our mission to the world. May God bless you all. Mary. And so this was the letter. And then it would be the next letter, which was the one that was shared just now. Let me unshare this. And then I can share the letter. Here, Mary letter number 7. Let me continue to read this. April 25th, 2018. This was less than a month before Gary passed. Okay. Hello, everyone. As Gary's recovery continues, I feel to express my gratitude for all the kind words of love and encouragement that have come in many ways from so many of you around the world. As the cat saga continues, there have been so many inquiries as to Gary's well-being. I explained in my last report most of the details about the journey that has led him to his condition, but there's a little more than that sheds additional light on the situation. Further brain scans have shown that Gary has suffered a major stroke on the right side and small stroke on the left side. His memory has not been affected except for the short term, so he's very capable of talking about everything except for recent activities. His mind is preoccupied with the new farm and everything that is planned there. He continually talks with all those involved with the farm development. Several times we have driven down to our new building scheduled for occupancy in March 2019 and are very excited about that. And Gary is continually interested in the construction and all that is taking place. The doctors are astounded with Gary's progress. They all have different opinions about what the outcome will be, but Gary is defying the prognosis. The stroke took the use of his legs, which has made him very frustrated, as you can imagine, but he's gaining muscle strength and beginning to put on more weight, which will support him in his ability to walk again. His left side was affected, leaving him with no feelings in his left hand and arm, and his being left-handed was a big concern. However, Gary is ambidextrous so he cannot notice a difference. But the excitement is that within the first few weeks of the stroke, he was moving his fingers and lifting his left arm, which was surprising to the doctors. Every day we see more improvement, and the therapists are certain that he will regain total use of his left arm. It's just frustrating that the healing is so slow. We're still asking about why this happened and have no real answers. It probably began with a terrible accident when he was logging in the mountains and was hit in the head with a tree at age 24, leaving him with 3 open skull fractures. What kind of healing and determination had to take place to get him out of the wheelchair after 27 months? What did the doctors mean when they told him he could expect to have some of the problems from the accident return later in life? What internal damages has he lived with his entire life from that accident? What internal damage was caused by the jungle bite, which we think was chagas? He has had enormous problem with his heart, which protocols he took charge of and changed. But that still hasn't closed the hole in his heart and eradicated the scar tissue that the doctors found. What other internal damages is there? How might brain tissue have been affected or weakened by the effects of the bites? The gram-negative blood infection that hit him twice, putting him in ICU twice for several days, is fatal for about 50% of the people who are affected. His blood platelets count went down to 50,000, which is dangerously low. His blood pressure dropped to 50, and anything under 90 is very dangerous. This infection was devastating to his entire well-being, and yet he came through it. But what are the damaging side after effects? There's so many unknown, and the doctors are astounded at Gary's fighting spirit to live. Gary is challenged by so many things and not just by what I have described here. He has had numerous accidents, including falling 30 feet out of a tree when we were camping in the wilderness, breaking his back 3 times through many unusual activities, having his horse fallen over him on a steep mountainside while searching for a lost boy, crashing his sand rail while filming the dunes to market Nitro, and of course, jousting, which he loves so much. Even when he was hurt, he would just continue jousting with his injuries so as not to stop the show. One time he was hit in the gut with a lance, which visually knocked the wind out of him, but he finished the joust and afterwards decided that maybe he should have the injury checked. We ended up flying to Toronto to a hospital that specializes in hernia surgeries. They wanted him there for a week with time between 2 surgeries, but he demanded that they do the surgeries back to back, which they reluctantly agreed to do. Then they wanted him to stay and recuperate for 3 or 4 days. They were not happy when we left the hospital the next day, but Gary just had to get home. We almost missed the flight because Gary couldn't walk fast enough to get to the gate, but I ran ahead with the boys and they held the plane for him. He has had so many small injuries, and most of the time, he would give no mental attention to his little accidents. It seemed like there was never any time to rest and recover because Young Living was calling him in so many different ways, and he was driven to eat everything on his plate. So just as a side note, remember when he injured his leg, when I was with him and when he drank the Mind-Wise, it was a Tuesday, right? And I remember it was either Monday or Tuesday. And I remember that night, the next day, Mary brought him to have an X-ray test checked in the hospital, and he had a torn muscle. So with a torn muscle, I think most people do not walk. And then the next day, I messaged Jen Jordan, and Gary was already up in Idaho at Winter Harvest. And I asked Jen, how is his leg? And Jen said, I don't notice much injury. He's only limping. So that's how he was, okay? So this was not a surprise that he had hernia surgery and he refused to rest, and he was already on a plane the next day. So harvest time in Highlands was a time of very little sleep, driving the semi every night 125 miles to St. Mary's, which took sometimes 8 to 10 hours over snow and ice, chaining up and unchaining several times during the drive. There was no time to rest because the trucks had to be unloaded immediately so that the plant materials wouldn't freeze in trailers. Well, I'm going to talk about that in the Winter Harvest episode. Besides having to get the trucks back to Highland in time to start loading more chips in the morning. Building the distillery in Fort Nelson, British Columbia is probably one of his greatest feats because of the horrible condition and the bitter cold sub-zero weather through an entire winter. But he was driven to produce black spruce, since we had been waiting so long for his precious oil that kept Valor out of stock. Even when he sent employees home to rest for the holidays, he stayed and worked through the night. Time was of the essence. He built the Croatia distillery in 19 days because we were desperate for helichrysum, one of our most needed oils. Thank goodness the weather was accommodating, even if he didn't speak the language or know the customs. How much has all of this played in adding to the condition in which he now finds himself? There's no way of knowing, but we do know that now he must rest and give his body time to heal. And even with this, his mind is still racing with ideas and plans for the future, which isn't all bad in motivating his recovery, but it doesn't help with the need to rest. Since we left the hospital and returned home, his blood pressure and oxygen levels have been 100% within normal range. We are working every day on his pain and finding help with some of Gary's own formulation. Good nutrition, rest, prayers, and sheer determination is Gary's protocol for regaining health. And we believe that prayers is the most powerful. Many believe and others have absolute knowing that Gary will recover. We feel your prayers, your knowing, your dedication, love, and friendship. We thank God every day for the blessing of Young Living and what that means to our lives. Great products, great friends, tremendous love and support from around the world, and a great mission to carry forward. As I said this in my last report, please keep visualizing Gary walking on stage at convention. The prayers of many can bring about miracles, and your prayers are very important to us. May God bless you all. Mary. So this was the second last letter. This was sent to us, and then I'm going to read the final letter that was sent to us after he passed away. And noted before I read that letter out, I wanted all of you to know that that year, convention theme was freedom. And we all joked that because that's what Gary wanted. He wanted to be free of his physical pain. He wanted to be free of his physical body. And he actually once said to Sherry Ross at his, when he was so ill, he said to Sherry, I can do so much with this body. Can you imagine what I can do without being trapped in this body of mine? And that was his spirit. Okay. So let me continue to read. So this was the last email. And this information is intended for the email recipient only. Please do not share this confidential information. I feel like 4 years later, we can share this. I certainly hope it will be okay. I did not get a okay, but we're going to be fine. Okay. Hello, my friends. I'm diffusing Gary's light and I just put Sacred Angel on. So hello, my friends. This is the last report that I was sent about Gary. Just trying to put feelings on paper is a challenge for me at this time. But so many people are feeling the pain of losing Gary that I thought I would try to answer some of your questions and give the best explanation I can with what we have experienced. Gary was continuing to improve each day from the last stroke he had, and we were all very enthusiastic about his future. He was sitting up by himself and standing up on his own strength. He had gained about 6 pounds and was eating 3 meals a day, even asking to eat. So we were thrilled with that. I made him 2/4 of a special power protein drink every morning, and he would usually drink all of it throughout the day, besides taking all his supplements. So I knew he was getting great nutrition. It was obvious because we saw him gaining strength each day. On Wednesday, May 9th, his left leg began to swell, and a heart lump was pushing against the skin. We took him to the hospital immediately, and were shocked when the X-ray showed that his leg was broken. We do not know exactly when or how, and he never complained of any unusual pain, which was probably because it was on his left side that was so affected by the stroke, so he couldn't feel so much. He was taken by ambulance to the large trauma hospital in Salt Lake for evaluation. The orthopedic surgeon was fantastic and was very confident that he could put in a titanium rod. Thursday afternoon, he had surgery, and which went extremely well. And the surgeon said he could start therapy the next day and stand on it if he felt like it. That was even better news than we expected. So we were making great plans for his recovery. However, his blood pressure was a little low and his heart rate was a little high, so they decided to take him to the ICU. I talked with him, and he was very lucid. He was lucid. He asked for oils, the first being Trauma Life, and then the nurse gave him a half cup of crushed ice, which he quickly chewed up and swallowed. He was doing extremely well, and we're expecting to bring him home on Sunday or Monday. Around 11 p.m., he started gasping for air. The ICU team rushed in and put a tube down his throat and kept him breathing with a breathing machine. Friday, he was still on the breathing machine, but seemed to rally a bit. We were hoping he could be responsive enough to take him off it. Saturday morning, he was taken for a CAT scan, which revealed that he had another big bilateral stroke. He had so much brain damage that his body is starting to shut down. He went into lung failure, kidney failure, and was in septic shock. The doctor said he could recover from perhaps an individual problem, but putting them all together, recovery would be very unlikely or very difficult. As I watched him and continued to communicate with him, I could see him struggling. One time, he got so angry with the tube in his mouth that his blood pressure went up to 118. We were happy to see that, but I felt he was screaming at me to get that tube out of his mouth. It was like, Mary, get this out. Get me out of here. Let me go. He didn't want to leave us, but he was trapped, which was contrary to Gary's whole being. I felt his suffering. We all felt his suffering, and I knew I couldn't let it continue. Gary was surrounded by those he loved and those who loved him dearly, who he worked with and who he traveled with the world with him. I made the decision to have the tube pulled out and let him breathe on his own. Then it would be his choice. Surrounding his bed, we held hands and prayed. The spirit was strong, and I could feel such relief from him when they pulled the tube out. I know he could hear us, and he knew that he was surrounded in love, but he had had enough, and he was ready to go, to be free of his broken and tortured body. I put my arms around him. Jacob and Joseph each held one hand, and the rest held on to him to be a part of his decision. His breathing became slower and slower until it stopped. He was gone, but he passed away peacefully, and he was not in pain. We all kept asking why, for which we had no answers. Yet there are some answers or possibilities. We will never know the internal damage and weaknesses caused by so many accidents, traumas to his body, and that foreboding bite while in the Amazon jungle that began the decline of his health. How much damage has he lived with since the tree hit him in the head while logging that was supposed to have left him paralyzed for life? How much more tissue was weakened until a life of intensity took him to the edge? Many of us will wonder for years what really happened, but there will never be an answer. Gary was a driven man, a man on a mission with a vision that had no boundaries. He was always concerned about everyone else and the well-being of this company. He would never rest and went from trauma to trauma, never taking time to heal because so many distributors and others were depending on him, and he couldn't let them down. God was his foundation, and his word was his bond. And to let anyone down was to disappoint God. And he wasn't about to do that. He called the Bible his owner's operator manual. He trusted and believed in others until they proved him wrong. He always saw the best in others until their actions said something different. Gary's personality was bigger than life itself. His spirit filled the room, the convention hall, even to the boundaries of his farms. He always gave 200%, never allowed the word can't to be spoken, and was always looking for the solution, the best way to accomplish the goal. He accomplished more in his lifetime than 100 men. He founded the essential oil movement against tremendous opposition and slander, but he never stopped in his desire to serve God's children. He touched millions of lives for good. His work was brilliant beyond his time, which is still being proven by modern science. He had a knowing, a destiny that has given so much to our world. He will be a great loss to the world, to those who knew him and loved him, to our sons Jacob and Joseph, and to me. I will feel a void for the rest of my life, but I know that Gary will be smiling down on us as we try to figure out the things he already knows. Thank you for your love and support as we go forward together, keeping Gary's flame growing brighter as we continue to be part of this mission that he envisioned decades ago. With gratitude and love, Mary. So this has been very difficult for me to read, even when I was doing it in Chinese, because obviously, like, I had a really good relationship with him. It was like a father to me, and we've become very close. He has changed my life, and I always say that I have everything that I have because of Gary, and I'm very, very grateful for what Young Living and what he has brought to me. And if it weren't for Young Living, I would not be the person that I am today. And if it weren't for Gary, I really would not be the person that I am today. I'm very, very grateful for Young Living and for him because he believed in me before I could believe in myself. And I think I can speak for a lot of people who have been in Young Living and who have known him personally, who've worked with him. So that is the truth of how Gary died. I hope that after this, it will give you more transparency and more clarity. As much as it is difficult for me to share Gary's path on how he passed away, I felt that this was the right thing to do. And that is why I only keep this in this group. And I hope that there's also another housekeeping thing that I wanted to talk about. I've been approving the people who have been added into the group. Please only add Young Living members. If they're not Young Living members, I will decline them. But it will take me a lot of time to find out, because if they do not have, Young Living members have a common trait. We are all in some sort of Young Living group about learning. So if the person that is added is not in any Young Living group, say, for example, 12 Days of Diamond, the recent Lymphatic Challenge group, or the Young Living Philippines group, or, we have a Young Living Education and Training group, I will know that they're not Young Living members and they will be declined. So if you can help me, it will be very helpful if you do not add any non-Young Living members into the group, because they will not understand. They must have had some sort of Young Living experience, some experience of why our products are so effective, why our oils are so different. Then this course will be meaningful to them. If they do not have Young Living personal experience, if they do not have an epiphany, this will be meaningless. You have no reason to add them in here because they do not understand. So the first step is not to add them in here to understand Young Living. The first step to introducing to Young Living is sharing the products, finding their needs and finding out what they actually need, and then giving them that product and letting them try it, and then have them feel so compelled that they want to be part of this and join as member and learn about it. And then this will be a meaningful group to them. Otherwise, it's really honestly meaningless. So if you will help me, just add people who are in your Young Living organization. Otherwise, please do not add them in. So that is all for today. And the next class, we will be talking about winter harvests, I think. Yes, we'll be talking about winter harvest in Idaho. It will be great. Another great experience. I hope that you can tag your friends who are already in the group, add your friends who are in your Young Living team, add your crossline who are in Young Living, whom you will think that they will really benefit from this course. And I'm not seeing you next week because it's convention. So I'll be seeing you 2 weeks after. Okay, so next week we're taking a break. It will be 2 weeks afterwards. Okay, so with that, I will say goodbye and have a wonderful convention week next week. If you're joining in person, I envy you. I wish I could go. And if you're joining virtual, then we'll be doing it together. I'm also joining virtual, and you'll all be so excited about all the new products. And I'll see you in 14 days. Okay, bye-bye. Oh, yes, and do read more on the D. Gary Young blog so that you can learn more about Gary. Okay, all right. I will be seeing you in 14 days. Bye.